Hi guys, very excited today. Welcome to a special episode of Ding. Today we're going to do a wrap up of the E3 convention. I'm going to go through some of the MMO games that were announced. I am joined today by the fantastic Dr. Fox. Dr. Fox, welcome aboard.
And I think all our episodes are special.
Of course you would. We're going to be looking at some of the cutting edge technology that's going into these MMOs. We're going to analyze some of the trailers that have come out. And some of these games, they look great. What games are we going to talk about today, Fox?
Oh, we're going to primarily talk about two ones that are confirmed MMOs. One we already know is coming. One we've known is coming for a while, Destiny 2. We're also going to talk about Anthem. We'll also mention Skull and Bones, and the first one we're going to talk about. Just because we don't know if it's an MMO, but we know it's coming to the PC. Last time, we mentioned Monster Hunter Online. They are bringing a new Monster Hunter game to consoles and PC. Monster Hunter World.
Exciting.
It does have drop-in, drop-out multiplayer, so we're not sure if it has an MMO component. Games like, say, War Thunder, they call themselves an MMO, but it's instance matches only, and there's no hub or anything where you can see lots of other players. Not sure if that's going to be in Monster Hunter World. Not sure if some people are going to call it MMO, but I thought it was worth mentioning because we talked about its MMO variant last time. So it's good to see a new Monster Hunter coming to the PC.
We've got so much stuff to get through today. Let's dive straight into it. All right, Fox, talk to me. Talk to me about Anthem. What is it? Who's making it? Where is it coming from?
Alright, Anthem is going to be made by Microsoft and BioWare. From, just a glance, it appears to be an answer to Destiny 2, produced by Bungie. Mm-hmm. We don't really know much about it. They showed us a trailer, and the trailer had, fake VoIP in it, so the actors are talking to each other, saying, "Oh, we'll come here and take a look at this place later."
They learnt that trick from Bungie.
I'll definitely be including the silly thing in the show notes for people to watch. But it looks gorgeous. It's going to be on the Frostbite engine, so you already know that it's going to look gorgeous based on Battlefront, which we might mention later. It's not an MMO, but we've got to talk about it.
Oh, I'm very excited.
Yeah. Like Battlefront, it's got the Frostbite engine. It looks beautiful. It seems to be sort of dystopic future. I don't know. They're hiding behind a gigantic wall.
What's the sort of the premise, or from what you can tell, the setting of the game? I mean, I've had a look at the trailer, and it looks it's a mixture of hard sci-fi and sort of a dystopian fantasy setting, I would think. Or at least the environment that it's set in is very, maybe Horizon Zero Dawn sort of, perhaps?
Yeah, kind of, yeah, because it's got a jungle thing going on. It's got a sci-fi tech thing going on. It seems a little bit grimy in the way that they're interacting with things. Yeah, and they go out into the wild world. It did give me a very Division vibe. Especially because of the fake voiceover thing, saying, "Oh, we'll go check that out later with X person here, and let me call in other people for this here."
Yeah.
All we really know is that it's a third-person looter shooter, with seems to be class-based. Not sure if that's locked in or anything. If you can change your class, you can change your mech suit. But yeah, you're going through what appears to be a very open world, doing quests in your sort of exosuit in this jungle environment kind of thing. Don't know if there's going to be any other environments. They haven't told us much, but yeah, that's coming out from Microsoft and BioWare.
I mean, visually, this game is absolutely stunning, and I think that's the standout thing that I can really take away from the trailer, is that we are entering a very great time in terms of computer graphics and particularly with what these developers are able to push out. We've seen in other MMOs, in the last decade, they all have sort of, not all of them, but there seems to be trends in terms of going for sort of a very timeless style, a visual style that isn't hyper realistic. But I think we're starting to see that trend as these engines get more and more advanced. We're starting to see worlds that are based in much more dense realism. You know, we've got dynamic water, we've got great lighting, and the textures are off the chain. As a self-proclaimed MMO casual, this is actually starting to pique my interest and is something that would possibly lure me into spending more time in the world of some of these MMOs.
Oh, good. You can play with me then.
But you know what I'm saying, in the sense that people who may not necessarily identify with the sort of World of Warcraft style, you know, aesthetic and gameplay might find themselves a little bit more aligned with some of these more graphically intensive showcase pieces that these big publishers are putting out right now.
Yeah, and I definitely found that happened with, as mentioned before, The Division, where people like, you know, your brother, he doesn't play any MMOs, but he did give The Division a go. It definitely had an allure for him and other people who didn't typically hit that kind of genre. If it's as good as it looks, you know, I hope it lasts. Yeah, it'll be coming out for the Xbox, I believe, since it was during the Xbox convention showcase thing, and definitely PC.
Do you think that it's poised to make a splash?
If they keep marketing up, I think they'll do it. Everybody's excited for what they've seen because it looks good. So yeah, they definitely marketing will be important for this, and I'm pretty sure that Microsoft and BioWare can handle that.
Let's talk about Destiny 2.
Ah, yeah, there's definitely some, which, you know, it appears that Anthem is an answer to Destiny 2 to really capitalize on that market, you know, with an open world sci-fi thing going on here. Destiny 2 is really seeking to differentiate itself from the first Destiny. It's got more story, it's coming to PC, and it's going to be launching in the Blizzard launcher since it's also an Activision product.
That's very cool. And it will be the first non-strictly Blizzard IP to go into the said launcher, is that correct?
Yeah, and they said that they don't intend to do something like this again, but I think it's a very smart move because the Blizzard app is really holding the most MMO players because it launches World of Warcraft. So, you know,
so it's interesting that they would actively be happy to put a competitor on their platform like this.
I'm not sure if they can really see, especially with Western MMOs, a lot of players like to play multiple MMOs, and these ones have different genres, different gameplay styles, so it doesn't directly compete with World of Warcraft.
The characters and the story that have come out of the trailers so far, they look like they're really have been paid a lot of attention to. It looks like there's some funny moments. It looks like there's some, it looks like there's some very interesting interactions and storyline to explore there. Do you think that's really what Destiny's current audience is looking for and what excited them about the game, the original game in the first place? Was that hope that Bungie would be able to deliver on what we have known to grow up and love with the Halo series of just epic, in-depth story that just keeps you compelled to play the game?
Well, I didn't get to play the first Destiny because it wasn't on PC, and I wasn't going to go buy a new console. I'm a Nintendo player, and I wasn't going to go out and buy a PlayStation or an Xbox just to play Destiny. That would have been way too expensive. But the Destiny's reception, it was received very well. And the things that people wanted more from it was more story. They wanted to dive into the world a bit more. The gameplay was solid. The PvP, the PvE was solid. You know, people enjoyed playing through that stuff. But they wanted more of the world, and Destiny 2 has promised more of that, as well as some new things like a few new subclasses, and definitely, like I mentioned, that push on story with the Guardians losing their powers and needing to get them back and fighting to take their home back, which seems a lot more interesting than the last one, which had a story that I've read the synopsis and I've forgotten it. It wasn't that memorable.
It was quite interesting because for Destiny 1, you know, they got a great cast. You know, they got Peter Dinklage, Nolan North, Bill Nye. They had some crazy.
Wait, I need to interrupt you. Peter Dinklage's performance was panned.
Really?
Nobody liked it. He found him unemotive, which, I mean, I guess that's kind of fair since he was talking for a robot. But, nobody seemed to like that. But yes, please continue.
Well, I mean, they had an all-star cast. How much of that, I guess, criticism do you think can be attributed to the actors' maybe inexperience working in a video game medium, or how much of that do you think could actually be attributed to just a poor story and like a poor script to work with?
I honestly couldn't answer. It's like I listened to Peter Dinklage's performance, and because I didn't play through the story, I don't know if ghosts are supposed to have lots of emotion or anything. But from what I could see, it was a little robot. Him talking without emotion seemed fine to me.
Well, I'm interested to see what comes out of Destiny 2. It is good to see that they're moving it onto a PC market. I think they'll capture a bigger audience like that. And look, at the end of the day, I think Bungie is one of the better studios out there when it comes to story and gameplay. So I have high hopes for this game.
Yeah, definitely gameplay, and I'm happy that I'll be able to use my keyboard and mouse with it, and I won't need to rely on their admittedly impressive but still very prevalent auto aim assist. I mean.
All right, let's move on to one of my favorite franchises, Final Fantasy. And what have we got coming up in store?
I don't really have much going on there. They used E3 to send like a developer's letter to all the fans. Nothing really new came up. They showed a little bit of gameplay with the monk class and the red mage class for Stormblood.
We should clarify. We're talking about Final Fantasy XIV, the
for
online
Final Fantasy
MMO.
XIV, the Stormblood expansion coming out for that. So they didn't show too much. It is worth a mention because it is an MMO and the expansion is quickly approaching. But so I'm always happy for more Red Mage, and I'm definitely going to play it when it comes out because I said I'd play Red Mage. I said I'd play it when Red Mage comes out. I'm going to play it.
This is kind of different to the games that we've talked about earlier on this podcast because they're sort of based in sort of a sci-fi setting, whereas this is very strictly fantasy.
Yeah. When it comes to Final Fantasy, I would say it is fantasy. There's science, they've got like magical technology and all that, but I think it's safe to call it fantasy.
But they've got the chocobos, they've got their iconic character set and gameplay styles that have lasted through time and time, through ages and ages and ages. At what point do we think that Square Enix is going to kind of fall from the throne with such strong competition coming out from the likes of Activision, from the likes of Microsoft? They're going to have to really start to up their game because Square Enix's thing was they were the games that had the best graphics, right from when the cutscenes from Final Fantasy VII came out through to the visual spectacle that was Final Fantasy X at the time. Do you think that they can survive when everyone else is pumping out games that are just as good, if not better visually than their IPs?
Yeah, well, with Final Fantasy XIV and like with the Final Fantasy franchise in general, it tends to really hold on to its fans, and some people will hit it and then quit it a little later, but they tend to come back to it, and it retains enough of a player base to really keep going. I don't think the graphics are really what's holding those players. I mean, the graphics are impressive compared to something like World of Warcraft, which is aging, but is keeping a style that is rather ageless. Whereas something like Final Fantasy, they do focus on some great looking graphics, but they still, perhaps they knew that as an MMO it would be around for a long time. Perhaps they did really keep it a bit more iconic and ageless in their design while keeping the graphics very impressive. It's mostly the world that they've got impressive graphics in. Nothing like we've seen from Anthem with its Frostbite engine. Oh goodness, that looked real.
Yeah, it looks incredible.
Like if you've played Battlefront, the snow, you look up close, it's like a photo.
Exactly.
But yes, with Final Fantasy, I don't think it's in any real danger. And this expansion is set to bring in some more people and bring back some people and please the current audience.
You know, it's interesting, just as an aside note, you know, someone asked me, what's the best Final Fantasy game? And I say, oh, it's got to be 10, you know, the story is just so in-depth, so tragic, so beautiful.
He's a dream.
And then they're like, oh yeah, what's the story? And I'm like, well, and I had to like Google the synopsis because I couldn't think of how to explain the story. And even reading the synopsis, I was like, this doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. You know, Titus is a dream, man. He's a literal dream.
Fox, tell me about Skull and Bones.
Yeah, let me lay it down for you. Skull and Bones is coming out from Ubisoft. Ubisoft Singapore, I think. But a while back, when Black Flag came out, Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. Was it 4? Yeah. But when Black Flag came out, its ship sailing system and its combat system was an amazing success. Critically acclaimed. I really enjoyed it. You got the shanties, you got the salt spray, you're just cruising along in your shit, smashing people with your cannons and stuff. Like it wasn't like a hard simulation, but it felt very satisfying. And the controls were very clean. So they sent out a survey, and one of the options was, you know, I want to see a game with this ship combat, and this is that game. They've brought out this game years later where it's built around the ships. You sail on the ships, you fight on the ships. The reason we're bringing it up is because it appears to be open world and might be an MMO. They haven't really given us much on that. They presented a cinematic a cinematic trailer, and what we saw in that was like, and what they promised through like this, their descriptions of it was that you can sail around and plunder things and fight on the high seas. We weren't sure if it was going to be in sort of like standalone servers, or you create your own shards or anything to play in. They haven't presented any of that information, but they did show a gameplay trailer. So, you know, after they say, oh, you know, you just sail on this wide open sea and everything, then they show us I think it was like 5v5 competitive.
Oh, wow.
Play, just a match.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, so does it have PvP matches? At the end, one of them leaves the area to finish the match. It was really confusing. So I'm not. For all we know, it could be like War Thunder. You know, you just queue up into matches and have that. But we don't know. They didn't give us the information. All we know is that this is the ship combat game that we wanted from Black Flag, and we're getting a multiplayer one.
I mean, I remember playing Black Flag, and that's one thing that really added to the environment, you know, and the game itself was so beautiful because they really built the sea in such a way that just made it so immersive.
Black Flag was like an adults-only Wind Waker. You know, I completely understand what you mean.
What else is on our list today?
That's about all of the alluded to or confirmed MMOs we got. I think you can't hold it anymore. You got to talk about Battlefront.
I want to. I have to get it off my chest. Okay, sure, it's not an MMO, but I really want to get your thoughts on Battlefront 2, because I've got a lot of thoughts on this game. I mean, it looks incredible.
Look, yeah, you know, fine. We're going off MMOs for a moment. We got to mention this. Yeah, hell, you know, it's going to be played by a massive amount of people, and it's multiplayer. Fine, whatever. We'll count it in. Yeah. I agree. It's going to be spanning all the eras. It looks great. It's going to have a story, and the story takes bits from the novels. It takes bits from all the things and really cements itself in the storyline. It's going to be canon story.
All 3 eras, which is incredible. The prequels, the original trilogy, the sequels. We're seeing gameplay footage from all that sort of stuff. The only thing that I am really concerned about is we've heard all this before, We've had our hopes set so high. And honestly, after, what was it, about a year of Battlefront 1 being out, there was almost a more active community playing the old Battlefront 2 than there was playing the Battlefront 1, which is incredible.
That is confirmed there were more people playing the old Battlefront 2.
It's ridiculous. Yes, you can have the greatest graphics in the world, but and honestly, the games were beautiful. Like, you could set machinima in that would look absolutely hyper-realistic and wouldn't look out of place in a cinematic film, but at the end of the day, the gameplay is what kept that fan base going on that particular franchise. And look, it's great that, don't get me wrong, I'm very excited to see what the campaign's going to add. But the magic formula from the old Battlefront games, yes, they had a campaign mode, but there was nothing special about that mode. I mean, it was loosely, particularly in Battlefront 2, they had 2 campaigns, 4 different campaigns, one for each class, the Confederacy of Independent States, the Republic, the Empire.
Systems. What are you doing?
Sorry, the Confederacy of Independent Systems. My bad. The Republic and the Rebellion, but the story that was told in those campaigns was by no means groundbreaking. It was just basically different strategic points you had to capture and different scenarios you had to do. With a bit of voiceover linking them together.
Yeah, here's a story for you to play on insert map here.
Yeah. So, I mean, as great as it would be to have a really in-depth campaign and story mode, that's not what's going to keep the people coming back. It's the gameplay that kept people coming back to Battlefront 2 and the old one.
I legitimately miss Conquest mode.
Yes, Conquest mode was fantastic. And you know what's set off a couple of trigger alarm bells in my head is that when you can pre-order the game, it gives you a bonus pack of the in-game cards system, which is the system that was in place in Battlefront, the new Battlefront, so EA's new Battlefront. And it was basically the gameplay consists of when you select your character, you can attach from your deck of cards that you've collected in game. You can attach abilities and power-ups, and you can have sort of 3 per character. And that was completely different to the old game, and that's what kind of killed it for me. And that they've done away completely with the class-based system, and it's very much, you have to earn the different guns and the weapons and things like that, and you sort of have to buy them through expansion packs and things like that. And there's no such thing as the four-way class system where you had your anti-tank, your sniper, your medic, and your was it medics?
Yeah.
That was the engineers.
Engineers and stuff. It was engineers that handed out the heals and stuff. But I, thanks to E3, can allay some of your fears.
Yes.
Like a major problem with the. It's very difficult to say. The first Battlefront reboot game.
Yes.
From EA was it released expansions and a season pass and all that, and you couldn't access some content without paying for it.
Right.
They said that all content this time will be available to all players, so there's not going to be a split in the population anymore. So you will be able to continue to find games later on because you won't be split across different content.
Yeah, that was a big problem too. That was a real killer.
Something else I also really liked about what they said was, I know you like to play in first person, I like to play in third person. There are going to be different benefits for each one you choose. So you'll be more accurate and stuff in first person, but in third person you'll be able to, see around corners and stuff.
I think that's definitely great news. I think it's a step in the right direction. It still makes me concerned that...
Yes, we know. It is still going to be a reskinned Battlefield. But, I mean, don't you want more Star Wars reskins for stuff?
I do, but it's that core gameplay mechanic from the old original Battlefront games that kept them just having that great fan base and kept them alive for so long. And I just think that's the one thing that EA is just refusing to pick up or make compromises on, you know?
But we do know it's gonna sell well. It's gonna sell well before it even releases. Because we live in a pre-order culture.
It's got that Star Wars name tag on it. All right, I could keep talking about Star Wars forever, but I think we better wrap it up there.
Yeah, we've already gone off topic of MMOs for long enough.
But look, as an overall feeling, I'm very excited to see the games that have come out from E3 this year, and I think that we're going to have some more to come as well. When these games come out, whether they'll hold up to the sort of the hype that has been attributed to them from these trailers, who knows? But what I do know is that there does seem to be an overall improvement in the technologies that have been put into these games.
Yeah, I found this E3 to be rather satisfying, especially as a Nintendo fan, because the Nintendo announcements were just great for me. But that's not MMOs, that's not what we're talking about. But I found it very satisfying, even though they were just like little snippets or little promises of things. New Pokemon game, new Metroid games. It's great news. It's great news. I felt really satisfied with this E3, and I'm happy to see some new MMOs and some potential MMOs coming up.
Dr. Fox, thank you so much for joining me. My name is Darth Kcaj.
And I'm Dr. Fox.
Great episode. Really look forward to talking with you again in the near future. Any thoughts on what our next MMO we're going to cover will be?
When I get my computer back, I'm going to be hitting Final Fantasy. I think we're going to have to talk about that. But we'll also be covering some other stuff. We do still need to talk about Star Citizen, if that'll ever come out. And we'll definitely keep up on the news coming out about these new titles.
Thanks for listening, guys. Tune in next time. Oh, and remember,
pre-order responsibly.
Pre-order responsibly.